Hello everyone! It's your girl, Fly Girl Nina, and welcome back to Fly Girl Bartending. Today I'm going to be sharing with you guys in the most simple format the process of fermenting and distilling spirits. Now, whether or not you are a cocktail nerd, you may or may not find this information useful. However, I think it is important to know just the basic process of which alcohol is made, just because you never know what kind of questions that customers may ask you when you're behind the bar, and it will also help you feel a little bit more confident in your knowledge. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, my fly people, let's jump into fermentation. Fermentation is the process of using yeast to convert sugars into alcohol. So you take a raw material, you add sugar and yeast to it to create a chemical reaction, and as a product, it will become a fermented alcoholic beverage, or in distilled spirits terms, a wash. I'm pretty sure you guys already know what sugar and yeast is, so we're just gonna go into the raw materials. So what is a raw material? Popular raw materials used to ferment and distill spirits include, but aren't limited to, barley, corn, grapes, sugarcane, wheat, rye, rice, and agave. So if we just look at fermented alcoholic beverages, there are different types that we can call it depending on the raw material. The most popular fermented alcoholic beverages are beer, wine, cider, and mead. Also, as a side note, just know that there's water inside the fermentation process as well. Science Girl Nina here to interrupt this video with a quick science lesson. Let's talk about solids, liquids, and gases. Using water as an example, if you were to take water and change the temperature to 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius, it would then turn into ice. Then if you were to take the ice cube and change the temperature to room temperature, then you would get a liquid. Following that, if you were to take your liquid and change the temperature to 212 degrees Fahrenheit or 100 degrees Celsius, then that liquid would boil, evaporate, and turn into a gas. Alcohol also has a boiling point, and that's going to be at 78.4 degrees Celsius. And there we have our solids, liquids, and gases. Oh, hello, Wisconsin Old Fashioned. Wonder how this got here. Cheers. That's feeling good. Well, I know what I'm doing for the rest of the night. Fly Girl Nina, it's time for you to take it from here. Okay, thanks Science Girl Nina for that quick science lesson. Now it's time to move on to distillation. Distillation is the process of separating and removing alcohol from a fermented alcoholic beverage. In order to distill that fermented alcoholic beverage, you have to put it into a vessel. And there's two main vessels that we use to distill spirits. These vessels are called a column still and a pot still. The process of distillation is basically taking a liquid, turning it into a gas, and then turning it back into a liquid. Let's take a look at a diagram of a pot still. There are three main parts of a pot still. On the left side, we have a boiling chamber. In the middle, we have the lin arm. And on the right side, we have the condenser. The other two subparts are the heating element and the collector of the liquid. So we're gonna take our fermented wash and throw it in a pot still. So we're gonna heat this fermented mash to 78.4 degrees Celsius, just enough so that the alcohol evaporates into a gas and the water does not evaporate and stays at the bottom of the boiling chamber. So as you can see, we have our heating element here and our fermented mash here. Then our fermented mash is going to turn and evaporate into a gas, and it's going to travel through the lin arm. The lin arm is basically just a tube to control the direction of the gases so that they're not just flying wherever they want. Looking at this diagram, you can see that the lin arm turns into the condenser, which is inside another vessel. If you've ever heard your science teacher basically call our esophagus and our stomach intestines as a donut, this is kind of a similar way to look at it. The lin arm and the condenser is kind of like a donut, and it's going to be covered by this vessel that's filled with cold water so that it will turn the vapor back into a liquid. And at the end of the condenser, we have a collector to collect the liquid that comes out. Just to run through this one more time very quickly. Fermented wash, heated up so that the alcohol turns into a vapor, but the water stays down below. The vapor travels up and through the lint arm into the condenser, which is covered by cold water, which will then convert it back into a liquid, and that's how you create distilled spirits. Now we're going to go through a couple examples just to help you understand the concept a little bit more. If you take an apple and ferment it, it'll become a hard cider, kind of like Angry Orchard. Now, if you were to take that fermented apple wash and distill it, then it would create an apple brandy or applejack. If you were to go to France, specifically in the Cognac region, and you saw some grapes and you were to pick those grapes and ferment them, then it could turn into a wine. If you were to take that same wine and distill it, it would then turn into a cognac. For the final example, if you were to take a grain such as wheat, rye, or barley and ferment it, you can create a beer. If you were to take the beer and distill it, then it can turn into a whiskey. Again, these examples are literally just showing you from raw material plus sugar plus yeast equals the fermented spirit. Then you take the fermented spirit and distill it from a liquid to a gas to another liquid. Then it becomes a spirit. Alright you guys, that's actually the end of today's video. I hope that you learned something from this or found it at least a bit interesting. Again, this is just a simple explanation on the fermentation and distillation of spirits. Eventually, I'll make another video where it's actually way more detailed, but for now, I think this is good enough. If you are looking to increase your knowledge on the subject, I also left some video links in the description to help point you to more thorough explanations of fermenting and distilling spirits. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today's episode, and I'll see you in my next one. Stay fly!